Hey, Shalom Akim. The water for joining. Let's go and get started. The water Akim for joining me today. YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, QADASH. Or let's see. So today we're going to go and get into the secret schemes of the wicked. Come on. Hey, the water for joining. Yahweh Shai broke a thumb to you, Akim, out there. Ultimately, today's lesson is we're going to talk about the secret schemes of the wicked, and we're going to get into the false flag that took place in Washington, D.C., and how it implicated the Northern Kingdom in acts of terrorism, and we're going to talk about how that's all biblical, how these Edomites, the so-called Caucasian and Israelis, are going to use these wicked schemes to try to cause us to be seen as the problem. Right? But before we get started, let's go and give all honor and glory and praises to Yahawah, BAHASHAM, Yahawashi, BAHASHAM, QADASH, Bracket Yahawah, Bracket Yahawashi, Bracket Yahawah, Bracket Yahawashi, Bracket Yahawah, Bracket Yahawashi, BAHASHAM, QADASH. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of great millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, who are the house of David, reborn again in this generation. And shalom to the 130 Yasharallah, who today we're known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans of the Holy Bible. So that being said, like I said, today's lesson, we're going to talk about the events that took place last week, where you've seen those two Israeli diplomats, which really they were basically Israeli spies. The man himself, though, they try to push him off saying that he was a Christian. That's a bunch of bullshit. He was an Amalekite, right? Amalekites is what the Bible refers to as the so-called Israelis. He would be a biblical Edomite, right? Edomite being the descendants of Esau. Same thing like his so-called girlfriend. He hadn't even proposed to her, right? But you had the news and the narrative that they're pushing out, trying to ham it up and make it seem like they had a beautiful life ahead of themselves, and you know that all got cut off. And this is a bunch of bullshit, man. But we'll get into that in just a bit. But let's go and get started, Akim, with reading this scripture real quick. This is Psalms. Let's start at 64. The point isn't 4, but let's start at 1. Hear my voice, O Yahawah, in my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity. And that right there is mainly in this time talking about the Edomites, okay? And when I say Edomites, like I said, I'm talking about the Caucasian and Israeli race who right now run the entire world. Now, though they may put up minorities in positions of power, or they may allow kings of their respective nations to sit on the thrones, it is them who run the banks. They run the shipping lanes. They run the militaries, which can dominate and place, what do they call them? Embargoes, or basically, what is it? Not embargo, is another term. Well, basically embargoes, or sanctions. Sanctions on these other nations. Okay, this is another reason why when you go to the airports, you always see English as the main word, right? This is why whenever there's a presidential election here in America, or what the Bible refers to it as Babylon the Great, the whole world is paying attention. And that's because, again, these Edomites, they run the world. Though they may do it secretly, it is obvious that they're the ones in control. The brother Adam Nana, Shalom, brings out 2 Corinthians 2:11. Please, Satan should get an advantage of us, but we are not ignorant of his devices. Beautiful, exactly, man. See, that false flag over there, and that took place in Washington, D.C. so conveniently at the same time when the EU was talking about sanctioning Israel, right? It just conveniently happened the next day, right? And not only that, but when you look at the events which took place, right? First and foremost, the supposed shooter, his name was Elias Rodriguez. Okay, he was, for all intents and purposes, he was an Israelite of the Northern Kingdom. Now, when you get into Elias's background, at least from what we've heard, he's basically brainwashed by the current mainstream narrative of pushing for, free in Palestine. Now, yes, what's happening to those people is horrible, but the fact is that it has nothing to do with us, all right? And when I say us, I'm talking about the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, right? We are the true Israelites, and both of those people over there, the Palestinians, which is simply an amalgamation of a different Ishmaelites from different regions who have settled in that land and have tried to, call that their homeland, and the Edomites who have basically coveted that land and tried taking it for themselves. Okay, the thing is none of those groups of people should be in that land, right? Because that is not their land; it is our land, and first and foremost, it's the Lord's land, right? And just as testimony in the Bible says that when people, other nations, go into that land and they don't live by the laws, they basically get affected. They get afflicted by the Lord, so that way they're casted out. Just look at the what were they called? The Kuthites or the Kuthians, who the Assyrians brought into the land to replace the northern kingdom when the northern kingdom got taken out under captivity, right? Those Kuthians, who were basically Iranians, they were for the most part they were set upon by lions and plagues and whatnot. Okay, and that's the same thing that's happening over there into the land of Israel right now. This is why over in the land of Israel, that place is burning up. And why is that? Well, there's a lot of reasons, but first and foremost, the spiritual reason is because the Lord is spewing those devils out of that land. This is why they have no peace. Was it like the first week, almost like the first day that they officially moved in? You had it was like the 3-day war. Basically, Egypt bombed them. There was a war that took place. See, because that land it does not want those Edomites in that land, right? And the Arabs, the Ishmaelites, who again are the rejected seed of Abraham, they themselves, when they were living in that land, at least they kept their life in modest means, and they lived by somewhat in somewhat semblance to the laws of the Bible. Because again, when you get into Islam, it has similarities to the ways that the Israelites should live. Okay, when you look at the Islam customs with the women with the hijabs or the hair coverings and the food that they eat, minus the shrimp, they basically are living our lifestyle. And why is that? Well, because they are one of the children of Abraham who were taught by Abraham to live in those ways, which is why they still to this day keep those customs and rituals. Now they've gone completely off, saying that the Messiah is not the son of the Most High, Yahawah, which is a total lie. Saying that the YAHAWASHI was simply just a prophet, right? That's going off right there, and that's blasphemy, right? So the thing is and they also believe that if they keep the laws in its perfection, or they keep the laws, that they themselves will be taken up into the kingdom or something. They'll be invited into the kingdom, but that's not the way it works. The Bible tells you that Ishmael was rejected, and that his 12 princes that Ishmael would begot, that they would have their own kingdom now in this time. Okay, and that's why right now when you go over to the Arab countries, they're living lavishly, beautifully, off of the fatness of the earth, along with their friends, or should I say their nephews, the Edomites. Okay, because again, these Edomites, the Caucasian and Israeli races, they descend from Esau, who was the nephew of Ishmael. Okay, again, Esau being another rejected seed line from Abraham, right? That came out of Isaac. Now that being said, those devils over there, they know that they need to build up some sympathy for themselves. Okay, they need to do major damage control for all the wickedness that they're doing publicly, which the world is rising up against them. Right, this is why they're coming out with anti-speech laws, right? Trying to mark it as a hate speech, right? This is why they're trying to make it illegal for you to do, basically give the Roman salute over there in Germany, right? There's nations around the world who have made persecuting or going against the narrative which Israel pushes. When I say Israel, I'm talking about the Israelis, right? The Amalekites. It's a crime to go against the narrative that the Amalekites push with the whole HALAL hoax, and all these things, right? And in fact, they're even trying to do that here in America. Just look at over in Florida. Florida is one of the states that's falling the fastest with that fat piece of shit, Randy Fine, or whatever his name is. Some fat Amalekite, looks just like Penguin from Batman, right? That guy right there, he's pushing hard. You know, he himself is a small hatter, and he's pushing hard to pass over a lot of these anti-Semitic laws and basically the banning divestment initiatives from people who basically want to simply just not buy anything from Israel, right? That's how crazy it is that over here in America, they're trying to make it illegal for you to boycott and not buy things from Israel because you want to have a say in where you spend your money. See, but that's the thing. That's the way these devils work, right? They don't want you to have your own thoughts. They definitely don't like the truth to come out because their kingdom is built on a kingdom of lies. Okay? So that being said, let's go and get to this scripture here. Let's go and get to let's read that scripture again. This is 2 Corinthians 2:11, like the brother Adamana brought out, right? Least Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. And what are some of the devices that these Edomites, these devils, which devil again is simply just means the deceivers that they bring out, right? Well, one of those devices is known as a false flag, right? Where they basically go out and they put out a fake story. Hey, Shalom, Mark, the water for joining. So, and what do I mean by that, right? Well, do you remember when these devils went ahead and did that whole pager explosive operation against the Hamas fighters, where they blew up a bunch of pagers? Well, 60 Minutes did an interview with one of the Mossad agents. And again, if you're not sure what the Mossad is simply just the CIA for the Israelis, okay? Again, their motto for the Mossad is, by deception do we wage war, okay? Well, this Mossad, who was, you know, wearing a balaclava, right, a ski mask to cover his identity, right? He was asked by the interviewer, the 60-minute interviewer, how is it that you guys were able to get the Hamas agents to buy pagers? And the Mossad agent said, he said, we have a vast network around the world, and we can produce, and he basically said, we could produce any narrative we want. We could create any sort of large companies around the world to produce whatever we want to do. Hey, how's it going, brother? You ever hear about this?
I was looking at it.
Beautiful, man. You ever hear of the 12 tribes of Israel? You ever hear about that in the Bible? A little bit. Kind of. Can I ask you a question? Do you believe in the Bible? Or do you believe in God, the higher power? All right, bro. Well, hey, just so that way you know, the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, when you get into the truth of who these people are, they have a lost, shared heritage. They are the people that this Bible speaks of. And the people who currently rule the world, they are ultimately lying to the entire world. And they've set up religions and they've set up power structures to basically enslave the entire world. And right now, they're ultimately going for broke, and they're going to try to take over the world, which is why in a couple of years, maybe more likely a couple of months, they're going to come out with everybody's going to be required to take a chip, either in their hand, their forehead. They're going to get rid of their money, and everything's going to be digital. But in that time, you just got to be careful, man. Don't take that. And don't trust these devils out here with any type of vaccines or any of that type of stuff, man. You just got to, stay to yourself and know that God's true, and that the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, that we are the true Israelites, and that's the truth that these devils are trying to keep from the world. Hey, you take care, bro. So, like I was saying, back to that Mossad agent, when he was giving his answer to the 60-minute interviewer, he said that they have a vast network of organizations, that they would create corporations and pretend to be a bunch of different entities throughout the whole world, so that way you don't even know that who are the Israeli organizations, and that the whole world is their stage, and that they are the producers of the entire world. Now that plays perfectly with the whole narrative of their production power over there in Hollywood. Okay, these devils, they basically have taken the Hollywood model and basically have exported it to the entire world, where they could go ahead and make new narratives, they could spin the news, they could twist the truth, and they could omit things, so that way they could ultimately deliver onto the people the message that they want. And what was that message that they wanted? Is that two perfectly innocent Israeli diplomats were shot down viciously by a Palestinian supporting Mexican, right? Who wanted nothing more but to cause chaos and hate, because he ultimately was out there just looking for blood, right? But the true narrative is that those two people here, when you get into who those two Israelis, or should I say, I'm just calling them Amalekites, who they were, the woman, her job was to go around the DC, power structure and try to find people to give them trips to Israel to basically influence them to start to support Israel. The man, he was a Zionist, basically meaning they want the Amalekites to control not only the land of Israel but the entire world, right? He ultimately was basically lobbying for the Israeli system over there in Washington D.C. Now they try to say that he was a Christian, but that's a bunch of bullshit, right? He since converted. He left Christianity and went back to their people's Judaism a long time ago, right? And not only that, but he took on the political ideology of Zionism. Okay, and again, Zionism is simply just where the Amalekites, they create their own ethno-state over there in the land of Israel, and they're all and for the truth of the matter of it, they're doing it under the cloak of maliciousness by saying that they are the chosen people, which they are not, right? They are in fact the adversaries of the chosen people. They descend from Esau, who is the enemy, the mortal enemy of the Israelites, again, who descend from Jacob. Now, that being said, this Elias Rodriguez that they conveniently that just conveniently happened to be the shooter, right? This right here is to implicate us Northern Kingdom Israelites into being seen as the terrorists, to be seen as the problem. It's the same reason why they allowed the little prisoners from El Salvador, Venezuela, and all these other South American countries to come up here. They literally had paid them to come up here through, what was it, the Hebrew Alliance Association or something like that. Basically, these Amalekites, these Edomites, had funneled money to these NGO organizations to help these people from South America, who again, they were Israelites, but again, these are the wicked of the Israelites. They had them come up here during Biden's administration, and even before that. And why did they do that? So that way they can now have a reason to start checking everybody's papers, especially you Northern Kingdom Israelites and you Southern Kingdom Israelites, because again, they've already been working on the so-called Negroes image and turning them into the terrorists of America. Just look at what the YNs are pushing around, right? Look at the lawlessness that Esau allows in the major cities, and to allow these wicked 2/3 to run around to be the image of you Negro, Latino, Native Americans. So yeah, you may say, well, it's not me. I have a good job. I'm a law-abiding citizen here in Babylon the Great. I do what the king tells us to do, right? I'm not out there causing problems. Well, that may be true, but to your average idiotic heathens out there, they're going to see the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, regardless of what your social standing is, and they're going to start to clutch their pearls. They're going to start to be apprehensive around you, and that's what these devils want. Those are those secret arrows that Esau is shooting at us Israelites. And why is that? Well, because you see, they got to make us be the bad guys. They got to make us into the terrorists, right? Like look what Kanye said, man. He became the bad guy, right? Because why? Because he was going against Amalek's narrative, right? He was a fly in their ointment, and that's exactly what us Israelites are, the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, the Hebrew Israelites, who are waking up and out here preaching this truth, going against the status quo that is pushed by these false schools or these false harlot houses, these churches. People are starting to pay attention to us. This is why you're seeing so many of our people wake up, and even you're seeing a lot of heathens out there acknowledging the truth that the Negro, Latino, Native Americans are the true biblical Israelites, and that those Israelis over there in the land of Israel and the ones all over the world who are running the world, secretly through their clandestine organizations are in fact the Edomites, right? But the latter is coming a little slower. It's a little harder for people to understand that those people aren't the actual Jews, right? This is why right now when you go on X, or you go on basically social media, everybody out there is talking shit about the Jews, but not realizing that they're not the Jews, that they are the Edomites that have been prophesied to be the imposters that are going to be revealed at the end time as being the wicked that the Bible speaks of, to be the Antichrist, for lack of better words. And again, just to clarify, there isn't just one Antichrist. There are many Antichrists. In fact, there's a whole nation of people who are against the Messiah, right? This is the nation of Edom. Again, the people who we refer to today as the so-called Caucasian and Israeli races, predominantly those people, okay? Because one thing about it is you got to understand, this isn't a black and white thing, and it's not that clean cut. It's a very nuanced subject, and it's too complicated to explain in a 15-minute video or a 5-minute exchange of ideas, right? You have to understand that since the time of the Bible, that there has been massive amounts of race mixing, right? Massive amounts of mixing, so much so that the original 18 nations that the Bible speaks of is no longer 18 nations, but they now make up 197 nations, which the UN recognizes. So again, the 197 nations that exist today in the world, which the UN recognizes, all go back to these 18 nations. Now again, because the events of the Bible take place so long ago, and this world purposely tries to dissuade you from understanding or getting into anything that can validate the Bible, these histories are hidden, right? And they're hidden in places that you would have to go. You'd have to work very hard to find. And that's what we think, and we give double honor to our apostles of Great Millstone and the teachers that came before them, right? Like Abba Bivens, right? King Masha of the House of David, and so forth. Because those were the pioneers in this truth, that since the time that the Lord has reawoken us, and they did the heavy lifting. They did a lot of the foot trogging and working and going to these libraries, finding these books, taking out these bits of information, so that way we could have them today and we could just spout them off like as convenient facts. Because again, having to find the whole statement about how a bunch of Israelites fled into Africa on the west coast of and stayed on the west coast of Africa from the book Babylon to Timbuktu, that would have been that was hidden for the most part, man. Nobody knew about that until the One West schools and the elders started getting into that, right? Same thing like the lost lands and the promised lands, or the lost tribes in the promised land by Ronald R. Sanders or something, right? All these books are filled with treasure troves of information, testimonies, and truth that these devils, these Edomites in power today, have been trying to hide from the entire world, right? And that's the way the Lord wanted it. Because why? Because the time was not set yet for us to wake up. Now that ultimately changed in the 50s, right? When Abba Bivens, right, High Priest Abba Bivens was awoken, right? And we understand through prophecies and through events that he himself has how should I put it? He himself didn't do, but the events that he created caused these things to happen, which fulfilled prophecy, right? Saying that John the Baptist would be reawoken or brought back in the end times, and he would turn the hearts of the children back to the fathers, right? Abba Bivens wasn't out there telling, or he was actually out there telling the Negro, Latino, Native Americans to repent and come back to the old ways. But did that itself cause the entire, or the 1/3 of Israel, the ones that are eventually going to be saved, to come back? No. But his actions and what he did started, it was like an automaton, right? It started a movement, and that movement grew and grew and grew until it is what it is today, where you have a large movement, right? In fact, the apostles even say that they believe that the 144,000 elect is already sealed, right? And what that means is that this movement is we're getting to the end of it, right? We're to the point where pretty much almost everybody in the world has heard of this truth, right? I'm sure there's maybe a small couple of little sections here and there that still need to, hear this truth, but that's all. It's all being sorted out by the unicorn, which is what the Bible refers to the internet as. Okay, and again, we can see this happening because of the events going on around the world, right? You have armies starting to gather over there in the Middle East area. Okay, just this last week, for the first time, I think it said like in 200 years, Germany has actually stationed permanently its factions of its military outside of the country. Okay, that hasn't happened in 200 years. So so those German soldiers, and along with some civilian helpers, are being deployed over there to the border of Ukraine, I believe, or Poland. But you see, what's happening is that the Lord is starting to rouse up these other nations, which is going to fulfill that prophecy that He's going to gather all the nations there into the valley of Jehoshaphat, right there, basically in Israel. Now I just said that the Germans went to Ukraine, and yes, that's far away from Israel, but understand that once the military starts to deploy itself, it's getting ready for war. And if the war field changes from Ukraine down to Israel, it is a very simple diversion. Okay, and that's what's ultimately happening right now, right? We're seeing all these end-time events happening, and that's because us Israelites were waking up, and this truth has been is being preached throughout almost all the world, and it's almost going to be done, right? But again, besides that having to take place, which is something that we won't know about, we can't know about it, right? But the Lord, that's something ultimately the Lord's going to know about. But one thing that we can look at as markers for where we are is the two major prophecies which are still to play out. That being the mark of the beast being implemented, right? Which, by the way, you had Elon Musk, that fucking Edomite devil, come out talking about cell phones are going to be obsolete, and Neuralink is going to lead the way, right? Because again, they want that cell phone that we carry around everywhere we go to be implanted in your head or in your hand. The brother, Salak Yakim, it's bright out here. The brother Zakayala, remnant seeker, brought out Jeremiah 49 and 20. Therefore, hear the counsel of Yahawah that He hath taken against Edom, and His purpose that He hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely He shall make their habitations desolate with them. Beautiful, exactly, right? The least of the flock is talking about the Israelis, because again, though right now the Lord has caused the Amalekites, right, the so-called Israelis, to fight against the rest of the Edomite house, that being, I refer to them as the Idumeans, right? That's the Germans, the Americans, the French, basically all the Europeans, all the other Caucasians, right? Right now, Amalek is fighting against his brother, and he wants to kill his brother. And why is that, by the way? Why are these Israelis who, when you look at an Israeli, when you don't look at the God disgusting, phenotype, Amalek that we all know about, when you look at the average Amalekite, they look just like your average Caucasian, right? Look at Natalie Portman, look at just some of these other people that you see over there who are calling themselves Jewish people, man. They look just like your average day John Smith over here in America, right? And that's because they are the same people, though they like to pretend that they're not. But you see, the thing is that the Lord right now is driving a wedge between the two, right? And the thing is Amalek, he's winning, right? This is why you're seeing all these if you go on TikTok, X, and a lot of these social media sites, you can see a lot of these Caucasians, right, basically talking shit about Amalek and vice versa. And why is that? Well, because you see, the Lord, that spirit that is on these Edomites, is ultimately, it's the same spirit that was on their forefathers. Not only just Esau, but the same spirit that was on Cain. Because again, remember, Esau is Cain in the reincarnation. And what did Cain do to his brother? He killed his brother, okay? And that same capability, that same spiritual marker is on the same people that descend from Cain ultimately, right? That being these Edomites, which is why they have no problem lying, stealing. Because again, remember, Cain lied to the Lord straight up to his face, saying, I don't know where my brother is, right? Am I my brother's keeper, right? And see, that's why these devils have no problems lying. And besides that, they're down with killing their brother if it means that they get to rise to power, right? So again, what does it say? All is fair in love and war. That's an Edomite phrase, man. You see, but the point being is that right now the Lord is causing the house of Esau to fight against themselves. This is why their ultimate world empire is falling apart. This is why they're being kicked out of Africa, right? This is why when you look at the Japhetic nations like Thailand, Singapore, and all those places, they're basically also trying to get the Americans out, and they're ultimately trying to bring in like the Chinese, right? What was it? Durante, the Filipino president, right? He talked about he's going to go to Putin and he's going to go to Xi and see if he could make friends with them instead of with America. Because you see, a lot of these people are fleeing these Edomites because their kingdom is falling apart, and their empire no longer has that magical allure that it used to have. Okay, nobody is allowing America's own dominance or its spirit to tell people how to do things. Nobody really cares anymore, right? Now, instead of being happy that America's giving them pointers on how to do things, now people are seeing that as an offense, right? Nobody wants to hear from the fat Americans, right? The fat, evil, genocidal Americans and Israelis, because that spirit, the rod of rulership and the the rod of rulership and the scepter, the scepter of rulership and the rod of power has been broken for these Edomites, and now you have all these other nations starting to rise up. So much so that you even had the North Korean president Kim Jong-il come out and call these Israelis genocidal murderers, right? See, so that right there shows you, man, how far these Edomites' image has fallen, because they've always been wicked, but the world has not seen it. They've managed to hide it through their movie magic, right? The deceptions, right? Like the Mossad agent told that 60-minute news reporter, that that the world is their stage. Well, guess what? The last couple of movies that they've been producing has been dog shit, right? Everybody has seen that these devils are lying, so much so that the false flag I'm talking about that took place over there in Washington D.C., people are already calling it out and talking about how it was for the most part staged. Yes, 2 people did die and lose their life, but again, Israel, the nation of Israel is famous for sacrificing its own people to further its Zionist state. Okay, and again, and that's not just me saying, that's Alex Jones who's saying that, right, on his show right on X. Okay, so it is very plain what they're doing. But again, what is not plain, especially to the rest of the world, is that they are painting the true Israelites, the Northern Kingdom, Latinos, and Native Americans as the problem, as the bad people. Okay, and this is really why they did it. Okay, this is the brother Adam Nana brings out Isaiah 14:4, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how has the oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased? Yahawah hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. Beautiful. That's what I was trying to get to. See, the thing is, that's what's happened, man. The Lord has broken the magic that these Edomites used to or were able to use to dominate the world. That's over now. And now they're starting to play on the same playing field as the rest of the world, and that's why the rest of the world is now starting to rise up against them. This is why us Israelites now, we're starting to rise up against them, right? And we've all seen those videos, man, where you have some fucking old ass Edomite trying to come up to one of our people, telling them what's your age or this and that, and they get their ass beat, or they get rebuked because the thing is that whole spirit that these Edomites still have on them till this day, or should I say the majority of them, of being the overseers of the people, right? That they are the bosses. They're the ones who determine what you're doing is okay. That spirit's fucking gone, right? The people no longer are bowing down to these Edomites and their perceived power, man. So that being said, let's go and move on, Hakim. So let's get to Jeremiah. Is it Jeremiah 50? No, 51. This is Jeremiah 51:6. It says, "Flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of Yahawah's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. Babylon hath been a golden cup in Yahawah's hand, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad." Right? See, so the reason I read that is because let's get on to this lost Israelite, okay? This lost Israelite, Elias Rodriguez, okay? He was so stricken with the plight of the Palestinian people, and I gotta admit, what they are going through, it is heart-wrenching and it is horrible. But you see, the thing is that those people should not be in that land, plain and simple, because that land is going to be completely wiped off the map by the Lord, and the Lord is simply now using them as to allow Esau to fucking crash out and show the world how wicked they truly are, right? But so that being said, those Palestinians should have got out of that land a long time ago, because one, the majority of them aren't descendants of Jacob, of Israel, right? They don't belong in that land. Their land was the Saudi Arabian Peninsula and all those surrounding areas where the other Arab nations dwell, okay? And when you get into the Palestinian people, again, the reason why Amalek, even though what he says is wicked, it's true, right? There's no such thing as a Palestinian people, right? Because that land, Palestine, that was a name that the British put onto that land, which ultimately go back to one of the original inhabitants of it, the Philistines, okay? And the thing is those people, those Arabs, those Ishmaelites, who we are referring to today as the Palestinians, they're not Palestinians. That's not their land. And again, even if they were the Philistines, those people got kicked out a long time ago by Joshua and the Israelites that were in that land. But again, the point being is that anybody who is in that land without the Lord's permission is going to ultimately have a horrible judgment brought upon them. And unfortunately, those Ishmaelites, those people that we refer to as a Palestinian, are seeing that, and it is horrible to watch. But the thing is that if Elias Rodriguez, that would-be shooter, if he would have realized who he was in this whole matter, he would have realized that he doesn't have a dog in this fight, right? That ultimately that ultimately is his homeland, and that he shouldn't have done what he did. Because again, the Lord even told us not to rise up against these devils in violence, right? To not take vengeance upon ourselves, which we're going to get into a little bit. But before we get into that, I want to read the article of what took place, just so that way, if some of you all haven't actually heard about the Washington D.C. false flag, let's go ahead and read it, so that way we understand what's happening, and that way we'll go ahead and talk more about it. So let's do this, because the reason I read that scripture is because if Elias Rodriguez was in his right mind, understanding who he was, an Israelite, and that he would have understood that he had to obey the Lord, and that the Lord told us to flee out of the midst of Babylon. What does that mean? Does that mean to get out of this land? No, it means to come up out of the way of the American people, the American way of life. Don't get involved in the matters that are plaguing this world right now, because all these events right now that are plaguing the world, from the Palestinian plight to the clamping down of America to turn it into a totalitarian state, to the fucking World Series and all these sports and all the movies, all this shit. It's all a distraction, right? The whole P. Diddy fucking mock bullshit trial, all that is a deception to distract you from the truth, right? And the thing is but Elias Rodriguez, he didn't know that, so now he is caught up, and now his ass is gonna spend the rest of his short remaining life in prison. If even that, he may even be given death, but he's gonna remain in prison while the Lord comes back, and he's gonna be destroyed with the rest of these people here, because one, he didn't find this truth. You know, at least he repents and he finds the truth in the prison that he's gonna eventually go to. But the point being is that guy, he stepped on one of these Edomites landmines that were set up for him. So let's go read this article. This is from Associated Press. It says, court papers say suspect in embassy killings declared, "I did it for Palestine. I did it for Gaza." And it says, the man accused of fatally shooting 2 staff members of the Israeli embassy in Washington outside a Jewish museum. So again, ultimately were Israeli spies for the most part. When you look at the conduct of what they were doing, those activities would be seen as Israeli spies, is what Israeli spies would do. Okay, so the thing is don't fall for this whole Israeli diplomat bullshit, right? They're just trying to spin it so that way it makes them seem like they're good people. Okay, it's the same reason why when that shit went down on the news, you had some fucking Amalekite there leaning or kneeling on the fucking street in front of the cops, crying with his little yarmulke and a draped with a flag around his back, looking out, and it was a perfect shot too, a perfect shot to be used for TV. Then you had that fucking just random fucking Amalekite also just crying there, talking about they were good people and this and that and blah blah blah, that we shouldn't resort to violence. And then you had his who was it? I think it was his like school teacher or something, his professor, talking about he was a good person, and on top of that, oh my god, on top of that, the event that they were putting on at this Jewish museum was an event to bridge the divide between the Palestinians and the Israelis, right? So to make it seem like they were doing the good, all the good deeds, right? But again, it's so ridiculously convenient that it's so fake. And the problem is for people like us who have eyes to see, it is so blatantly clear that this was a false flag, and it's Amalek just hamming it up for the cameras and making them seem like the victims, right? Because again, after all those events went on, all the paid politician shills came onto Twitter with almost the exact same condemnation of the violence in DC, right? Now asking for anti-Semitic hate speech and crimes, right? You had that fucking trans what's her name, Loomer, whatever, that fucking Malachite dude thinks he's a fucking chick, Laura Loomer, come out saying that we should just allow Israel to do whatever they need to do to rout anti-Semitism out of all of America, all the cities, right? You had even Trump talk about how they need to stand up against anti-Semitic hate, right? See, again, it is all being orchestrated. It is all a stage for these Amalekites, right? Because again, they know that they're losing the narrative. They know that they are being painted as the bad people, and again, and on top of all that, this is all the fucking plan. They are going to make Islam and Zionism to be the worst things in the world, so that way they can abolish all that, and then they can bring in the New World Order religion, the One World Order religion, which is ultimately Luciferianism, but it's basically the everybody is one, everybody can do what they want to do as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else, right? All basically modern day Christianity, which includes a bunch of the Sodomites and all that stuff, okay? But I digress. Let's get back to this article. It says, this happened outside of Washington Jewish Museum, told police after his arrest, "I did it for Palestine. I did it for Gaza." Federal authorities said Thursday in announcing charges in the killings they called a target act of terrorism. Elias Rodriguez, a 31-year-old, shouted, "Free Palestine," as he was led away after his arrest. According to charging documents that provided chilling, right? If you're not scared enough, you better be scared. You should let this chill your bones. Provided chilling new details of the Wednesday night shootings in the nation's capital that killed an American woman and an Israeli man who had just left an event at the museum. They were set to become engaged. Oh, the horror. They were about to get married, right? This motherfucker didn't even propose to them, right? I doubt they were even serious, man. It's all the people around them who probably set them up, because they didn't know that they were gonna get fucking offed and shit, right? But the other people who had organized this around, all those other Amalekites, totally probably set them up so that way they could be the sacrificial lambs for this mission. Okay, and it says the stunning attack prompted Israeli missions to beef up their securities and lower their flags to half staff. It came as Israel pursues another major offensive in Gaza Strip in the war with Hamas that has heightened tensions across the Middle East and internationally. And that law enforcement officials have repeatedly warned could inspire violence in the U.S. So speaking of that, so if you're unaware, Israel has just banned, for the most part, all international news organizations from going into Gaza. So for the most part, no more reporting on Gaza, right? It's going to be blacked out. You won't be able to hear about anything that's going on in there, right? Remember, these are the same devils that have fucking killed, UN, was it doctors or paramedics? And instead of, telling the UN, it was an accident, whatever, they fucking straight flatten these fools along with their cars and bury them, try to bury the evidence on the side of the road. Okay, these devils aren't fucking around, because why? Because they want to they want that land. They want it with all their heart and soul. Because why? Because they're the Edomites and they want their birthright back. They want what they believe was promised to them, which they falsely believe was stolen from them, not realizing that the Lord rejected them just like he rejected Cain in the beginning. Okay? Hey, Shalom, Mark, for joining. It says blah, blah, blah. So it says Rodriguez faces charges of murder of foreign officials and other crimes and did not enter a plea during a pre-functionary court appearance. Additional Salaki, I'm a fucking ad. It says additional charges are likely, prosecutors said, as authorities continue to investigate the killings as both a hate crime against the Jewish community and terrorism. See, they're gonna throw the book at this bitch, man. And the thing is not only is it gonna come down on him, but it's gonna come down on the rest of us Israelites, right? Even though we may not know it, it's gonna come down on us. Because why? Because just like when they started to allow the African refugees into Europe, and just like they brought the Haitian refugees into Mexico, and then eventually they came here to America, they purposely have allowed or fostered this criminal narrative amongst those people, okay, amongst our people, to make us look like we're the criminals. And what's that going to happen? So now your everyday Negro, Latino, Native American, we're going to be seen as the terrorists, right? So no more it's the Arabs who are going to be seen as the problem, but you Negro, Latino, Native Americans who are now the illegal immigrants, the terrorists, the people who are causing the problems. It's not going to be easy to swipe you up and take you to these re-education camps or these internment camps, or back to El Salvador, to that mega prison. And that's the way these Edomites are rolling. They're shooting all these small secret arrows so that way they can paint a picture of the true Israelites without calling us the true Israelites, right? This is what they're gonna do. They're gonna paint us as the bad guys, okay? So, and again, and if you haven't been, and if you've been wondering, that's really one of the reasons behind the whole the trap music and all the horrible culture that they push upon our people. Because this debaucherous culture that pushes upon our people, it furthers that illusion that we are a debased people, right? That we're evil and wicked people, right? This is why you have Edomites over there talking shit whenever you have a fucking 2/3 of our people coming out there doing some stupid shit, talking about, oh, they'll never learn, they'll never assimilate. Look, they're always the problem. It's every time, and they're always pointing to our people, right? Because you got fucking wicked 2/3 of our people who are falling right into Esau's fucking hands, not realizing that they're basically destroying it for our nation, right? The true Israelites. Now, that being said, this is why the Bible also says, it says, cause no offense, so that way the ministry be not blamed. See, because again, your actions and what you do is imperative that it doesn't put a bad light on the rest of the people. This is why the apostles and the elders always got on camps like Sakari and ISUPK, right, with their militant stances and bringing out guns, because see, what they do is they start linking us to negative things, right, like the militant Black Panther movement or the domestic terrorist movements. Okay, see, and the thing is you have what's his name, the guy from ISUPK, Tazadak or something, like not Tazadak, I forgot his name, but he basically had a shirt that said that he's a domestic terrorist or some shit like that, right? Like, but basically taking on these negative identities and wearing it like a badge of honor. No, you're not supposed to be doing that, man. You're not supposed to be. We are not supposed to be giving any sort of negative light to this truth, right? And also, and if you do, ultimately the Lord's going to kick you out of this, because He can't have that, come upon this truth, man, to defile the rest of this movement, right? Because those are the things that these devils, these Edomites, they latch onto, and they'll keep running with it to try to basically not argue the points. They'll start using ad hominem attacks from other just random bullshit. Okay, so let's continue this and we'll be done. It says, and it says, violence against anyone based on their religion is an act of cowardice. It is not an act of a hero, said Janine Piero, the interim U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia. Anti-Semitism will not be tolerated, especially in the nation's capital. And it kind of goes on to give you a fucking an appeal to emotion. Remember that term, Hakim, appeal to emotion, because when they're pushing propaganda or lies, they won't give you the truth. They're gonna give you something to appeal to emotion, right? Talking about how they were gonna go on and get engaged and live happily ever after and bring forward all these fucking Edomite children and all this bullshit, right? We don't give a fuck, man, because you guys are fucking smashing the baby's brains over there in Gaza. You think we really give a fuck about 2 people who got shot there in Washington, D.C.? We give a fuck about these people, and really, those people over in Gaza right now, that's on them. They shouldn't be there, right? And ultimately, that's the judgment of the Lord. But the point being, that has nothing to do with us, right? That's something to all do with Esau and Ishmael fighting over our land, and has nothing to do with us, right? So I can give a fuck about what's going on over there, right? Because it doesn't affect us over here. Now, what I do care about is the events that they're trying to link to us. Now, that being said, like I just read, let's put this away real quick. So like I just read, they're saying that violence against anybody based on their religion is not to be tolerated. Now, that is also what this truth of ours says, right? We have never condoned or try to push any sort of violence on these Edomites, right? In fact, we discourage it, because again, our time to rise up and beat the shit out of these people or take over the kingdom, that's not now. In fact, that's only going to happen until after the Lord comes back. Until then, our job is simply to be here in our captivity, obey the laws of the land, and until they go against the laws which the Lord gave us, right? Which is like the mark of the beast, right? Doing things like that. But the thing is we're not to be involved in the protest, in any type of actions of violence or nothing like that. We are not to be involved in that. So even though you got idiots like Elias Rodriguez out there who is totally, fucking it up for the rest of the Israelites, right? Which is more likely why he did what he did, because the Lord's going to judge him ultimately in the soon future, man. But the thing is that we are not to be involving ourselves in any of these events, from being a protest to trying to go and take up arms, or even beat up some, knock the hat off of one of these small hatters, man. Let Esau fucking have his due. This is his kingdom. Let him fucking enjoy it while he has, because his time is almost up, right? It's simply our time to wake up and still be in captivity, still live under this captivity which the Lord told us to do, or sorry, the Lord sent us. And just like he told us to do in the time when he was sending the southern kingdom into Babylon, he told us to obey their kings and obey their ways, but don't go aside and worship their gods, or don't go off and do and sin, right? But let's go and read this real quick, because the Lord made it very plain that we are not to take out vengeance ourselves. We are not to commit any sort of violence, in regards to this truth. This is Zephaniah. Where is it? Let's read Zephaniah 3:8. Therefore wait ye upon me, saith Yahawah, BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. So you see all these things going on, from these people getting shot, or our people being judged and being killed off, or being deported, all that stuff. Yes, it's infuriating, but you see, that is not for us to meddle in, okay? Because if we start meddling in the Lord's events, then we may be caught up in it and get judged ourselves, okay? Because again, what did the Lord say? Why is he doing this? Because it is his determination to ultimately bring all these events, all these things that he's doing in the world right now, because he's ultimately going to culminate all this into making all the nations gather over there in the land of Israel, okay? So if we're over here trying to stop the Israelis from destroying those Ishmaelites who are in that land, right, then what's going to happen is you're basically trying to stop the Lord from rising up the world's temperature against these Israelis to gather them into the land. So what you're ultimately doing is you're going against the Lord's will. Yes, it's sad, but you have to let the Lord's will play out, okay? And again, unless it's affecting you personally, and you can't separate yourself from that event, you shouldn't be involving yourself in these issues, okay? Because again, that's not for us to be involved in. And that guy Elias Rodriguez, he messed up. He got in the way of the Lord, and ultimately the Lord put that bugged out spirit upon him, and now Elias Rodriguez was simply used as a pawn and Esau's fucking chessboard. So that being said, let's go get this. This is 1 Peter 5:8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. And Elias Rodriguez, his ass is going to get devoured. His ass is going to be thrown onto the spotlight. He's going to be seen as the worst thing next to Hitler, right? And they're going to try to tie all these anti-Semitic things to his ass, and his ass is probably never going to see the light of day again, right? And what he's going to be charged with, that is, right? But then ultimately he's going to be put to death by the Lord. Because why? Because he's more likely going to spend the end of the world in a fucking cell, right? And he's going to see the second coming of the Lord from inside of a cell, man. Fucking pushing around shit they do over there in these prisons, man. But the point being is that, like it tells you here, man, we got to be very careful, Akim, because these devils right now, because they're warring against each other, there's a famous saying or idiom or even knowledge where it shows where there's two elephants fighting each other, right? And below them there's grass being trampled. Well, the Israelites and all the other nations, we are the grass being trampled upon right now, and those two elephants is the house of Esau fighting against themselves, okay? And it is our jobs as Hebrew Israelites to get out of the way, let the events that are going to happen play out, and don't get involved, right? We don't got to be up there trying to cut the kneecaps of one of these elephants. No, man, that's not for us, right? We just simply got to stay out of the way and make sure we don't get trampled upon, because Why? Because our adversary, right, which means our enemies, right, the devils, the deceivers, are walking about like a lion looking who they could devour, man. So if you get caught up in these protests, these anti-Semitic rhetoric things, right, then you might be able to be caught up by these devils. Because again, right now, they're looking to clap down this truth. And that's ultimately why, dude, these Israelis, they could have that fucking land right now, man. It's defiled, and ultimately it's only to condemn them. In accordance to Ezekiel 36:5, it tells you that the people who are found holding on to that land in the end times, those are going to be the Edomites, right? And who's in that land firmly holding on to it, man? It's the Caucasian and Israelis over there, man, right? And you got the Palestinians over there barely hanging on. They're about to be wiped out, right? But that when they get wiped out and shit, and they get shaken off of that land, that's going to cause a whole other hornet's nest to come up, right? That's going to be the events spoken about in 2nd Ezra, about the dragons of Arabia coming out with the what is it, the warthogs of Carmenia, the Iranians basically coming out with them. But the point being is that, again, we are not to get involved in any of these events going on, because again, it's not our fight. We have no dog in that fight. So next, let's go and get this. This is because one thing that I want to stress, and this goes back to how the apostles and the elders have gotten on these other camps, ISUPK, Sakari, right? About giving that militant appearance, having guns. We are not to be doing that, man, because again, when you start to mess with that image, you start pushing that narrative, you now start making yourself a target, for that, right? And this is what the Messiah himself said, right? In red letters. It says, this is Matthew's 26:52. Then said YAHAWASHI unto him, put up against thy sword into his place, for all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Okay? And Elias Rodriguez is going to find that out pretty soon. And all you Israelites out there who think this is a game and think, it's about taking out Esau right now, you're going to find out right now, real soon, that ain't how it's going to go down, man. That the Lord has given these Edomites time to rule until an appointed time. And when is that? That's up to the moment when the Lord shows up, right? Past then, these Edomites ain't going to go any further, right? What does it say in Job? That the Lord has appointed his bounds which he may not pass. See, we haven't gotten there yet, but until we've got to that point, these Edomites are still going to be able to rule. They're still going to be able to traffic these children. They're still going to be able to commit these wars. They're going to still be able to corrupt the system and oppress the people, right? And there's nothing we can do about it but take our punishment and just deal with it, right? And get ready for the Lord's second coming and prepare ourselves accordingly. So again, if you want to try to match these devils, with their sword, with their blessing, fucking that's on you, right? Because again, right now you're seeing a lot of our people on these social media sites talking about, there's going to be that they want to do a race war and these Edomites are going to get it. Man, they don't realize how many guns and how much power, not only just physical power with guns and weapons, but spiritual power these Edomites still have, man. These 2/3 are going to, though they're going to be used as a battle, as a bulwark against these Edomites to take a lot of them down. The thing is a lot of those 2/3 Israelites aren't going to survive what's coming, man. And a lot of them don't even realize they're already dead with those things that they've taken, man. They're just walking dead people, man, not realizing that Esau already got their asses, man. They just haven't got the news or went to the doctors yet, or their organs haven't shut down yet, but they're on their way. We know this because we're starting to see those turbo cancers popping up all over the place, man. Everybody's dying of it, right? From the children have it, the young adults have it, right? All these people who were talking shit, now they're coming down with these incurable forms of illness, and they're soon gonna pass away, man. But again, this is the power that these Edomites freaking have, right? So that being said, let's go ahead and continue. This is let's go to Proverbs 26 and let's start at 24. The point is in 27, but let's start at 24. This is talking about these Edomites, and ultimately all these schemes and everything that they're fucking doing is all going to come back upon them. So says the Bible. This is Proverbs 26 and 24. He that hateth dissembleth with his lips, and layeth up deceit in him. Right? Basically meaning they come up with all these lies and all these far-fetched narratives, right? All to basically get people trapped up in their schemes. Verse 25. When he speaketh fair, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart, whose hatred is covered by deceit. His wickedness shall be showed before the whole congregation. And that's what's happening right now, right? It's literally happening right now. Right now, we, along with the apostles, the other elders, we're showing you that what these devils are doing, right? We're being those witnesses that the Bible says we would be. The northern and the southern kingdom, we're those 2 witnesses that were prophesied to come in the end time to be a witness against the wickedness that these devils have been doing around the world, right? But not only that, but ultimately, these devils, it tells you that the people of like wickedness, they're ultimately going to be revealed in front of everybody, man. It says, verse 27, the point, whoso diggeth a pit shall fall therein, and he that rolleth a stone, it will return upon him. And that's what's happening, man. You see, these devils are trying to play at the whole narrative that the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, that we're the new terrorists, we're the problems, we're the people who are keeping America from prospering, right? This is why one of the major MAGA movement things is to deport all the people who don't belong here, man. And they're not just talking about the legal immigrants. They're talking about you Negro, Latino, Native Americans, and you Negroes too, man. They want to deport your ass back to fucking Africa because they're so fucking dim-witted. They don't understand that the Negroes aren't the same as the black Hamites, man. But see, the thing is again, that information is too high for these fools. So they don't understand that concept, right? So they want to get everybody out of America, right? Hence the whole make America great again, man. So that being said, all this scheming, all this, devilish conspiracy theories that they're fucking pushing, it's all going to come back on their head because ultimately the truth is going to come out. And when the truth comes out, what's going to happen is all these lies that they've been showing is all going to start to people are going to start to realize how much of fucking devils these were. And that's kind of what's happening right now when you look at the whole HALAL hoax and the narratives that these Israelis used to push, how they're America's greatest allies. Then now it's starting to come back upon them, man. People are starting to see that they're just devils, and this whole false flag of them offering 2 of their own to try to gain some sort of fucking sympathy, it's not working. Because when you go on social media, everybody's already calling it out as a false flag, and the only people who are pushing the narratives are the fucking paid shills on mainstream media, which nobody fucking believes, right? I think you even had the brother Adam Nana brings out 2nd Ezra 6 and 28. As for faith, it shall flourish, corruption shall be overcome, and the truth which hath been so long without fruit shall be declared. Beautiful, exactly, huh? See, we're in that time where people just aren't buying the bullshit anymore, man. Right? If it sounds silly, it's gonna get exposed, man. Because we are past that time where all that shit fucking flew, man. And now people are starting to wake up to these lies, and corruption is starting to be exposed, and truth is flourishing. And why is that? Well, because the words of the Bible are being truthfully taught throughout the world, starting with the apostles, with the elders, and all the other Akim out there who are watching lessons like this, sharing scriptures properly throughout comment boards, and just things like that. Let's get this. Because ultimately, all this lying that these devils are doing, and them trying, because again, these Edomites, remember, they're sticking to a particular script, and they're just doing it over and over again, which is why the same thing that took place in Weimar, Germany, before the Nazis came into power, is the exact same plan that they're doing here in America, right? If you want to see what's going to happen in America, just go and study what happened in Germany before the Nazis took over, man. And then after the Nazis took over, that's what's going to happen here in America once Trump finally brings forward his super patriotism, right? And they bring in the Golden Dome, which again, the Golden Dome really is to prepare America to fight against God and ultimately to keep the people locked down here. It's gonna be a digital prison. It's basically they're building a prison without walls. They're gonna be digital walls. Okay. So that being said, let's go and get this. This is Micah. Micah 2 and 3. Actually, I'm gonna start off on 1. Woe unto them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man in his heritage. That's us. Right? These devils are oppressing us in our heritage, and so that way we can't claim to be the Israelites. We can't claim to be the real Jews, right? They make that a crime. They say, oh, that's anti-Semitic. That's hate speech coming out of that mouth of you and shit. Right? So let's continue. Verse 3. Therefore, thus saith Yahawah B'Hashem Yahawashi, behold, against this family, what family? The Edomites, the so-called Caucasian and Israelis who descend from Esau, that family, the Edomite family. Against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil. And that's what's happening, man. You see, because what's happening is, like I said, the Lord is doing all these events, though they may seem, harsh, and it's very sad what's going on with the people over there in Gaza. It's all part of the Lord's plan. Because why? Because He is setting a trap for these Israelis, and you can see it. You can see a lot of them falling for it, right? And especially if you go on X, you can see the wicked, vile shit that these Israelis are saying against the Palestinians. How they're mocking them, starving. How they're laughing at parents, holding the remains of their children, from them talking shit to the rest of the world, talking about how they're gonna own them and whatnot, right? It's that hubris that these Israelis are showing, which is so embitteringly, it's so it embitters you, because especially us, because we know that those are the false Israelites, right? But the way that they're acting like their shit don't stink, it's enraging, right? But the thing is this is all part of the plan for the Lord to take these Edomites out, because right now He is showing the world that they are the Antichrist, right? They're showing the world who the true devils that it tells us in 2 Thessalonians, that the world will have to realize that those are the wicked of the Bible. Con, it is infuriating, man. Right? I'm there fucking pissed off all the time. Not only against Amalek doing the wicked shit he's doing, but against all the other fucking people on comment boards, going out there calling them the Jews and ascribing our heritage to those fucking devils who are ruining our good name, right? But again, that's a whole other thing, and it's too deep for a lot of these people to even understand. But that being said, man, that is a trap that the Lord is setting up for these devils, and they won't be able to remove their neck, because what they're doing is they're showing the world their true colors. And this is what the world is being allowed to see, that if they were to allow the descendants of Cain, right, to have won and to ultimately be given the world, they are not going to be given a glimpse of what it is to allow wickedness to reign. And this is how ultimately us Israelites, but also really the rest of the world, is also going to be able to see what evil truly is. The brother Adam Nana brings out Nahum 1 and 3. Yahawah B'Hashem Yahawashi is slow to anger and great in power, and will not at all acquit the wicked. Yahawah B'Hashem Yahawashi hath His ways in the whirlwind, and in the storm, and the clouds the clouds are the dust of His feet. Exactly, man. See, so the Lord, He's just letting this all play out, even though it's infuriating and you want to do something right now. The Lord got a greater plan playing out to show the world ultimately who these devils are that are in the land of Israel right now. He's allowing us to come out here, spread these words, allowing brothers like me, you, the apostles, to go out on comment boards, place out comments to make people start thinking to start bringing out the term Edomites, Edom, Esau. Because again, I can tell you, man, I've never seen those terms being used more lately than I have in the last 10 years since I've been in this truth. Okay? And the thing is more people are starting to understand what's really going on because of starting with the apostles, the elders, and Akim like us who are out here showing this truth. You know, even though it may seem like nobody's around here, people are watching these videos. People are engaging with this truth, and you could tell because of the way you can tell because of the general knowledge that is being pushed out, man. When you got rappers, you got celebrities, you got other nations referencing things that we talk about, man, that isn't by coincidence. It's because this knowledge is going out into the general lexicon of society, right? This truth, which was hidden and was the strength of these Edomites, is now being revealed and is making these Edomites weak. Khan, exactly, bro. Esau and his buzzwords, man. He's always out there, man, fucking trying to twist the narrative and control things, man. But it ain't working anymore because the Lord has broken his rod and his staff, man. He can't control the narrative like it was before. This is why these false flags, they used to, you know, be good for a year or 3 or even longer. Now they're being revealed in the same day now, man. People are starting to call it out way before, before anything, and they can't push what they want. And again, right now they're probably trying to work really hard to push these anti-Semitic laws, but you're gonna have a lot of people out there calling false flag on what the events that took place over there in Washington D.C. But ultimately, like I said, this is also the Lord can set up a trap, and that trap is ultimately going to go. It's going to lead to this, because there's ultimately going to be a point where Esau is going to be done, and he ain't going to be allowed to do all this wickedness anymore, man. He's going to be, it's going to be finito, man. Let's go and read it. This is Obadiah 1:10. For thy violence against, and again, if you're unsure, the book of Obadiah is basically a one chapter long book in the Bible, which was written specifically to these Edomites, specifically to the Israeli and Caucasian race, okay? And it basically talks about how the Lord is going to destroy them and wipe them off the face of the earth. And right now we're going to read that part particularly and why the Lord's going to do it. This is Obadiah 1:10. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, that's talking about us, Negro, Latino, Native Americans. Remember, we are Jacob, and these Caucasian and Israeli, they are Esau. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Short and sweet. I don't have to go into any more details, right? The things that these devils have done to us, right, from these Amalekites owning all these ships, the slave ships that allowed the captivity of our people, right? Also, these Amalekites from owning the majority of the slave plantations over here, and the insurance companies and all these things, right? And Esau just going along with it and also partaking in it and benefiting from it. That's the shame that these devils are trying to get away from, man. And they try everything from, I wasn't there, I'm not my ancestors. If I was there, I would have stopped it from happening. And I'm not, I'm poor. I'm not benefiting from it at all. These devils, you can't get out of it, man. See, the thing is that's why the Lord has us Israelites out here giving testimony against you Edomites to show the world what you've done. And ultimately, see, we're simply just the prosecutors, and pretty soon the judge is going to come into the courtroom and he's going to give judgment, right? And he's going to ultimately, and right now, in fact, he's already given judgment, and that's what the judgment was, is that he's going to cut you off forever, right? There's no coming back for these Edomites. So the whole IUIC false doctrine about how when they're captives in the kingdom, that they're going to fucking, come together and they're going to organize and they're going to rebel and uprise against us. And the Lord, that ain't going to happen, man. These devils are going to be cut off forever after they serve 1,000 years of hard bondage. It tells you very plainly in the Bible. Now, that being said, it should be very apparent to us Israelites, the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, and even for those Israelites who are scattered amongst the other nations that, may not look like us Negro, Latino, Native Americans, but whose father's lineage goes back to that bloodline. It is very apparent to us that something is going on. And in that something going on, we need to understand that we have to do something, right? To prepare ourselves and to protect ourselves from the events going on. Yes, we could spiritually, we could prepare physically with getting food and water, moving out to a safer place. But ultimately, what we got to do is spiritually prepare. And that means coming back to our true heritage, coming back to live like an Israelite, because that provides us with the ultimate spiritual protection that the Lord gave us, right? And ultimately, it's going to show the Lord that we're true about Him and we love Him with all our heart. And this is what it tells us here. Again, it's a famous scripture. This is Sirach 5 and 7. Make no tarrying to turn to YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, and put not off from day to day. For suddenly shall the wrath of YAHAWAH come forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance. So again, man, we should all be seeing that we're coming close, that there is that all these events are all culminating to these end time events, right? So we shouldn't wait until they start initiating the mark of the beast. We shouldn't wait until we see World War III break out and they're starting to draft everybody around you, right? You shouldn't wait until you're old and gray, because you probably won't even get there, man. You should turn back as soon as you can to this truth and start building up now, so that way when that time comes, one, you'll be prepared. And there's something that we've always said, right? You don't got to get prepared. Stay prepared so you don't got to get prepared, right? And that's the thing. Us here, by doing this work, by cleansing ourselves spiritually, we are spiritually preparing ourselves, so that way when that time comes, we don't have to be prepared. And what does the Bible say? Blessed are those who are found doing the work when their master returns. And that's ultimately what we are seeking to be. So either way, Akim, hopefully I was able to expand on the false flag events that took place in Washington, D.C. and showing you how they're trying to pin, they're going to use that to try to pin a narrative that we are the problem, the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, and how we just got to ultimately try to just avoid being caught up in Esau's traps, because again, the Lord Himself is setting up traps for Esau, and he doesn't even realize it. Hey, the water for joining Adam Nana, Akim, the water, Yahawah, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, brought a thumb. Let's go and end this by giving all honor and glory and praises to Yahawah, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, QADASH, Brakat Yahawah, Brakat YAHAWASHI, Brakat Yahawah, Brakat YAHAWASHI, Brakat Yahawah, Brakat YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, QADASH. Shalom, Akim. If you have any questions, post them down in the comment board. I'll see you, Lord willing, here next week. If not, I'll see you throughout the week with my lessons. Shalom.